Now to Andrew Leung. He's an international and independent China strategist. Welcome to the programme. And we've seen activists detained, but why have these politicians been arrested and why now?
Well, I mean, they were arrested because of an increasing spate of physical violence inside the legislative chambers. It's not only that, because there is an increasingly more apparent plot to really bring the whole government to a halt.
Andrew, if I can just jump in, it's November. This happened back in May.
Yes, but of course, this physical violence is happening all the time. And this is one of the more critical examples of such violence. But of course, after the imposition of the national security law, which comes back to what I just said, there was a plot among some of the legislators to bring the whole government to a halt by blocking all and sundry government legislations so as to force the resignation of the chief executive eventually. And then such plot is in fact openly unveiled in one of the local pro-democracy newspapers, and which led to the imposition of the national security law in Beijing. So I think that this is, but of course that such arrest would have to be subject to the adjudication.
So Andrew, do you see that these arrests are justified? Do you believe these arrests are justified?
I do believe that they are justified, and as a prima facie evidence that they're using physical means of violence to really to bring the whole government to a halt. I'm not just saying that this is the only incident, and in fact, what you're seeing on the television is not the full story. I think that there's also increasing evidence. In fact, there is a consensus with a large part of the population that these so-called democratic legislators have a hidden agenda, as exemplified by last year's violent protests on the streets, which brought Hong Kong's law and order to a halt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we expecting to see more arrests like these ones of politicians? I mean, we've seen activists.
Well, on the one hand, I'm not saying that this is limited to a few, but of course, everything has got to be based on evidence. But on the other hand, as far as the courts are concerned in Hong Kong, only yesterday, the court released 5 protesters who were charged with the riot. And of course, it took several months for these charges to appear before the courts. And then eventually these protesters were released for lack of sufficient evidence. So I think at the end of the day, under one country, two systems, the independent judiciary in Hong Kong is very important. But let's not forget what they've been fighting is one man, one vote. But of course, under the joint declaration, one man, one vote was not included in the joint declaration with Britain. But Beijing chose to include us in the Hong Kong's basic law. And in fact, there was a package offering one man, one vote, but on the understanding that the candidates have got to be pre-screened. Otherwise, Beijing would not feel comfortable in working, giving them a free-for-all. But that package was rejected by the Democrats.
Okay. Andrew Leung, thank you so much for your time on TRT World. We appreciate it.